Thank you for joining me for episode 4 of Blocks and Balance. Today we're going to be talking about rest. I've been reading through, or I should say, listening to Dr. Aron, I think it's Elaine Aron's book, The Highly Sensitive Person, and just trying to learn more and more about the personality trait that I do believe I have. Anyway, she talks about rest. There's a whole chapter dedicated to rest, and I wanted to talk about rest. And she talks about how important it is to, help reset and help to keep from overloading. And as a youth, I had a very good relationship with sleep. I slept pretty good. The only problems I really had is that I was a very, very light sleeper. Like a lot of highly sensitive people, I had a sensitivity to loud sounds, so I would be startled out of sleep often. But as a kid, I went right back to sleep. Now, as an adult, I have physiological issues, both from being a male and from diabetes and heredity. I have physiological issues that keep me from being able to not get up often to go to the bathroom. And so I have to get up quite often in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. And so that's a challenge on its own. But, you take that away, and I still have insomnia due to my brain never stopped working. I think I've talked about this before, that I just really have a problem shutting down my brain and stopping it from thinking. And, sometimes this could be a very cool thing. Other times it could be a hindrance. And one time it's a hindrance is when I'm trying to sleep. And so I also have an issue where I will wake up in the middle of the night and then not be able to get back to sleep. Because usually when I'm awake, or if something startled me out of sleep, then I'm, alert, kind of alert mode, I guess I'd say, and I just really can't get back to sleep right away. Historically, I've always historically, I've always been able to play video games and get myself back into sleep mode. And, I used to play a lot of RPGs. D3 was really heavily, I played that a lot. Path of Exile. And what I would do is when I wake up in the middle of the night, or when I just know I'm like wound up and I need to like wind down, I'll just play one of these games. And like right now it's Minecraft and doing something like this. The monotony of terraforming this mountain down or this hill down to nothingness. You do this for an hour and then you fall asleep, you're ready to go to sleep. And so that's what I would do, is I would just, do something that was not too thought-provoking. And it's very usually monotonous. Like in D3, you could just run, different kinds of raids, especially when they're easy raids, and just, grind for gear. Same with like Path of Exile, you can just grind for gear. Other MMOs, you can just, a lot of them have like, crafting stuff that you can do in the game. And so you can focus on that and just kind of mindlessly work your way through a different aspect of a game until you're worn out and then your brain's ready to finally go to sleep. It also helps me to stop thinking about certain things or overanalyzing certain things or being neurotic about certain things. You start overthinking about something and then you start playing a game, Minecraft, you start doing this, and then all of a sudden you're like, what was I thinking about like 5 minutes ago? And so I think it's really important to be able to get sleep. I know it affects me. When I can't sleep, I get into these really bad like cognitive states where I don't no idea what's going on. You could tell me something like 2 or 3 times and I still might not understand it. And I'm a pretty sharp individual, so I usually get things pretty quickly. So that's really kind of disconcerting for me when I'm in those kind of states, when I'm just overly tired like that. I have also noticed that it's easier because I just had an episode recently where I was really, really tired because of just work schedule. It had nothing to do with like what I'm talking about now. It had to do with work schedule, and sometimes that just happens. You know, you have a work schedule that you get to get called in early, and then you have a late night because of something else, because of other obligations, and you just have a really bad night of sleep. And I had that the other day, and I was just so exhausted. And I found out that when I'm in that exhausted state, it's so much easier for me to get into an overload state, and for me to start freaking out and like just starting to get into a panic mode almost. And I'm really like, I feel like I'm on the edge of that line like constantly when I'm tired. And when I'm not tired, obviously it feels fine, and it's like something I can deal with. So it's very, very important to be able to get your sleep and to figure out ways to make sure you get your sleep. I mean, even before I knew I was a highly sensitive person, this is, you know, has always been something every, I guess, psychologist, every medical health person will tell you, is that sleep is extremely important, and being able to get your sleep. So do what you got to do to make sure you get your sleep. At least that's my advice. Make sure you get your good amount of sleep that's ready or good for your body. Everyone's a little bit different. Me, I run really good on about 6 hours of sleep. I think that's a little less than most like professionals would recommend, but I feel really good at about 6 hours of sleep. Anything more than that, and I sometimes feel a little too groggy, but anything over like 9 hours of sleep nowadays, I just feel like that's just too much sleep, and I've wasted my day around too. All right, well, that was my little insight on rest and Minecraft and being highly sensitive. Thank you for joining me, and we'll be back again hopefully next week. I've been trying to do these on a weekly basis, but also I am human, and I've got a life and other priorities as well. So bear with me as I figure out this schedule, the perfect schedule. But again, thank you for joining me, and we'll see you again soon.